Hello, everybody, and welcome to the pilot or beginner or introductory episode of the Red, Orange, and Blue podcast. I will be your host, the Mexinadian, and this podcast, if you're wondering, is going to be about all things Detroit sports related. And by Detroit sports related, I mean the Big Four. That Big Four being the Red Wings, the Tigers, the Lions, and the Pistons. Now, each of those is going to vary from episode to episode. Obviously, right now, that's probably going to dominate this podcast will be the Red Wings and the Lions. I might throw some Pistons in there, but the Pistons stories just seem to be the same every week or every game, essentially. So there might be some Pistons here and there, but full warning, I don't watch the Pistons. And if I do, it's not very often. I might catch one game every 4 months or something like that because there's just nothing happening in that team. But I'm getting off track. This whole podcast is going to be about talking about the Big Four, and that's what I'm going to do, whether it be minor to major. And I'm going to take a look around some of the sports leagues and look around them for trades, free agencies, stuff like that. I might get into some NCAA talk. I don't see a lot of people covering NCAA hockey, so I want to get into that. And all in all, I just want to give people a place to listen to a diehard, passionate Detroit sports fan, because a lot of podcasts out there, yes, they are fans of Detroit sports, and a lot of the podcasts show that they are fans of Detroit sports, but most of them are in a professional setting. Most of them are they're in this setting of a podcast thinking that it needs to be quote unquote professional. I know because I listen to a lot of the Detroit, the Red Wing hockey podcast, so the Wingfield podcast, Grindline podcast. I listen to them, and yes, all of them do have a sense of, they're obviously all opinionated, but they're both, and I love both of them, don't get me wrong, this is not a slight at them whatsoever, but they're both very professional in a way. For the best way I can say it, they're very professional. And I don't want that to be here. I want this to be an unhinged, emotional, but factual podcast. And that's what it's going to be. I don't plan on throwing out advanced stats and stuff like that unless absolutely necessary. Now, obviously, I will do my due diligence and my research, stuff like that, but I do watch every Red Wings game. I do watch every Lions game. When the Tigers play, I watch most of their games. Pistons, like I said, they are in the rearview mirror of most Detroit sports at this point. But that is my plan for this, is to give you guys raw, emotional talk and discussion about topics of Detroit sports. And also, sorry about my voice. I'm a bit sick right now, so bear with me on that. But this podcast, I know what you guys are waiting for, when is it going to come out? This podcast is going to try to come out every Sunday. That is the schedule I'm going to half commit to, because my life is so star-spangled fucking crazy right now that doing this is a bit insane. But I cannot promise that it'll be every Sunday. What I can promise is that there will be 3 episodes a week. Nope, 3 episodes at least a month. There may be an emergency episode in there. There may be an early episode. There may be a late episode. Who knows? But there will be at least 3 episodes a month. And that I can promise. And they will more likely than not be on Sundays. What time on Sunday that is, I don't know. That depends on what game, if there's a game on that I'm watching. Because obviously the Lions are in the playoffs right now, so their games will likely be on Sundays. And if I'm watching that, then the odds are this podcast won't come out until probably late that night. And same with the Red Wings. The Red Wings, they play later in the day. Most of their games, the matinee games start at 7, so full hockey game, that won't end until like 9, so this podcast probably wouldn't be up until 11:30, 12 o'clock. But that's very dependent on that. And other than that, it should become, if there's no games on that day, this podcast should be coming out around noon, a little bit later after that, give or take. It'll be up on Sunday, more likely than not. Let's just say that it'll be up on a Sunday. at some point during Sunday. So that's all I wanted to let you guys know. Remember, the Red, Orange, and Blue podcast, three times a week, likely on Sundays. Tell your friends, families, and child if you want. Maybe not your child. This is going to get a bit unhinged at points, which I want to happen. So thank you guys. Hopefully you guys listen to this podcast, and I genuinely hope that you guys enjoy it. So without further ado, welcome to the Red, Orange, and Blue podcast era.